Hi, I'm Greg Hall, and I'm going to go over Tableau Prep, which I envision us using it a lot to create our hyper extracts and our data source for our Tableau dashboards. One thing cool about it is that you can see things at a glance. Here's a bunch of tables from our workflow system. And yeah, our workflow system that we presented at the UCSF Showcase Convention. Here are a bunch of tables here. Let me go through the first one really quick. So this is our ODS users table. So these data sources here are coming from Microsoft SQL Server. More than likely, your data source is coming from Excel. So in this case, the ODS, we have to get ODS information, user information, because right now we don't have single sign-on, so we're creating our user IDs. So yeah, so when we, for example, log in, we log in with our user ID, which is our last name. My last name is Hall, concatenated with the first letter of my first name, which Gregory was. So G would be the first letter of my first name. So yeah, so I did that, in our store procedure here in SQL Server, but I was curious to see how it would be like in Tableau Prep, and God, Tableau Prep it's really fast, it's really quick. Let me show you something here really quick here. So what you can do is I can double click here on our cleanup here, our cleanup step, and here it shows you this, the calculated fields, this field user ID revise. You can see here user ID revise. Here's my calculated field for that, and it does it in the order that I created it in. I created this calculated field first, so it's in that order. So I'll double click here. You can see the calculated field. It's the same, exactly the same as your Tableau desktop. You have calculated fields. So again, look how short this is. This is just your comment field right here. But look how short this is. So this is the algorithm. So in user ID, let me convey or clarify things. So when you get your user ID, there are times when the last name can have multiple names. For example, so if you look at here, this person here has, in their last name, it has 3 names here. So what we did was, aside from their, well, there's 4 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four names in their last name. And so it's the last name again. It's the last name concatenated with the first letter of your first name. So it's actually 4 names here. So when there's a space, we just replace it with a hyphen here. Okay. So, but first thing you have to do in SQL Server, there's 2 steps. This is a 2-step process. It's longer than Tableau Prep because I have to get, I have to figure out how to get those multiple names that are in your last name. So basically I take the last name, subtracted by the last name that has, I replace the space with no space. So I subtract that. If it's greater than 1, that means that the last name has multiple names. Right? And once I get that, I have to create a field that replaces the spaces with hyphens for those names with multiple names in the last name. And then I have to update the database. I have to create a join. This is updating so this is store procedure. Basically, I get from ODS all the user information, and then I have to massage it, right? And this is how I create the user ID. I have to update those multiple names in the last name. But as opposed to, if you look at Tableau Prep, it's pretty fast. This is it. It's the scripting or coding is a lot shorter. It's pretty much the same algorithm. Last name subtracted by the last name with the space. Replace the space with no space, and then subtract that if it's greater than 1. That means they're names that have multiple names in the last name. And if that's the case, if it's greater than 1, just put a hyphen. Put a hyphen. But when there's a space, replace it with a hyphen, and then concatenate it with the first letter of their first name. Right here. If not, then treat it like you would, the rest of the record, which is your last name, concatenate it with the first character of your first name here. So that's pretty much it, but it's a lot shorter because you're doing it at the column level. So yeah, so there's that column for this. And if you just wanted at a glance just to see those names with last names with multiple names, here's another calculated field. And you can see it's right here. And the way I did that is pretty much the same, the calculated field. It's just that I don't have an else here, so everything else is treated as a no. So yeah, so if I close this, it's the same algorithm formula. See, everything else is treated as a no. So here are the names that I have, and I delimit it by, I delimit the spaces. It used to be a space. I put hyphen here, and I concatenate it with the first letter of their first name. So that's pretty much it. Here's a simple calculator field just to get their name, which is right here. I'll double click here. It's just first name plus put a space in there plus their last name. That's pretty much it. Or first name concatenated with space, concatenated with their last name. So that's pretty much it. So it's pretty much, it's everything there. In this case, I output it to a CSV, which is like your Excel file, you can say, CSV, but you can output it to a TDE or Hyper. Hyper is faster, so you would use Hyper over TDE. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I output it to a CSV file, which you see here, which you can actually see. A CSV is like your Excel file. So it's like your CSV is like this. It's like Excel. I mean, it is Excel here. So it exports it to this. So you can see the fields here. So what else? Yeah, let me show you a couple more. This I also exported. This is your row. So we have rows in our ticket system, right? And I did an inner join, and I joined it with the users table because the rows table tells me the users that are in our ticket system, and it tells us if they're admin or non-admin. And I joined it by user ID with the user ODS users table to get more information on that user. So there's an inner join here. So you get only those users, these users here. You can see it here. You get only those users, whether they're admin or non-admin. If I click on me, it shows I'm an admin. You can see it highlighted here. But it also gives me other information. So if you look down here, it gives me other information when I was hired and all that, because I joined it with the users table, ODS users table. Pretty cool. So that's it, and I output it to a CSV. And here's a sample if I output it to a Hyper extract. So these are ticket counts. So for example, these are the categories and department code inherit accounts that I have for tickets for this category. It's a breakdown here. And I output it to a Hyper. You can see here, a Hyper extract. So you can see it actually over here. So it creates this Hyper extract, which is right here, this guy here. And so in my dashboard, let me just show you the dashboard here. This is our Tableau dashboard. You can see our dashboard here. And if you look at the data source, it's coming from our Hyper extract up here. And the way you get to your Hyper extract, where you can get it, if I click on Add, I can click on under to a file. I click on More, and I can just double click on the Hyper file that I created there from Tableau Prep. That's pretty much it. That's how I got that. So that's how I get my cool dashboard here. So one other thing that we can do is we can schedule our dashboards, our Tableau flows rather, not dashboards, but our flow files, which is really cool. So I have here run ODS, or I have here run workflow data. So let me just show you this really quick. So in this case, I can run the workflow data file, which is this guy here, which is on Tableau Prep here. This is workflow data. And yeah, you have to have a connection string when it's SQL Server. If it's Excel, you don't need this guy here. But in SQL Server, you need, for example, I'll just show you an example here. Open with Notepad. You need to create a JSON file and create your connection strings. I created it locally for this demo's sake, for just to test it out myself. So yeah, you can call this batch job. You can schedule something to call that batch job. You can schedule it daily, automatically, and daily, maybe 3 times a day, or maybe in the morning or at night. So pretty cool. So you can schedule your flows, which was a big request last year when I was in New Orleans at the Tableau conference. Everyone was requesting for them to have that ability to schedule your flows, and so they have that. So that's pretty cool. So I'm taking a class Tableau flows from the Tableau conference next week, so I'll learn more about Tableau Prep. But I really think it's a really good tool to use, and I think we should use it, just for the sake of documentation, so we know how you got your data sources from. It's pretty cool. So it's really slick. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. So close everything.